Welcome, every and anybody to a vaguely familiar podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed. With me, as always, is my brother and partner in crime,
Bashaar.
I love the way you said that. Today, we had a vaguely familiar guest in Tom Butwin. Great guy. He's a singer-songwriter. He does Mayor Mondays on YouTube. He has a great channel. You guys should check it out. It's linked in the description below. What did we talk to him about, Bashaar?
Talk to him about how he's trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Our mutual admiration for John Mayer and his music, about his career as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah. We also talked about Taylor Swift and John Mayer and how that dynamic works and the whole General Hall Swifties thing as well. It was just a great overall conversation. Wonderful guy, lovely guy. His Mayor Mondays are amazing. As I know, he put them on hold for now. We hope to see it come back. And his channel is amazing. He's just a great overall dude. I hope you guys stay for the entire thing because, again, this is a long one. And we thank Tom Butwin to be on the podcast. He recorded his stuff locally, so his voice is pristine. And we always love that. A good audio check on this channel is also always appreciated. So thank you guys for that. And I hope you guys stick around for the whole thing and leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that thing. You know what to do. And we'll see you guys on the other side.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, great. Welcome, Tom Butwin, on the Vaguely Familiar podcast. We've been following your channel closely for a few weeks now, and as you can tell, we are huge John Mayer fans as well. And it was only after discovering your channel through the Mayer heads on Reddit that I went deeper into your channel, and we became fans of your content, and we immediately reached out. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It means a lot.
Oh, thank you for having me. It means a lot to be on your show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for finding me too. I love the magic of the internet.
No, I think a lot of people have found you ever since, especially on the John Mayer subreddit, that you're like a topic that people keep bringing up because your insights are so insightful. Not to be redundant, but you have sort of a grasp on the knowledge of music and the knowledge of John Mayer music, especially, which is intricate in itself. But you have a really interesting way and very easy way of explaining what it is. And how did you come about that? Like, how did you find that solid niche? Really, really, well, I wouldn't say early on because you've been on YouTube for a while, but you sort of hit a spot with that specific type of videos.
Yeah, it was kind of by accident, and like when, it's like you said, I've been on YouTube for a while. I forget, maybe like 2008, I dropped it. That's a whole other story. But I put a cover video up.
We will get into the origin story of Tom Butwin. I think you should know that when we go deep.
Yeah, awesome. I'm loving it. But and the majority of what I was doing on YouTube was music that I was performing in some way, shape, or form. But I'd always wanted to kind of, I had amassed a little bit of a following, and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm fulfilling the full potential here of what I have as far as the YouTube channel. And I'm fans of so many YouTube channels that do the vlog type, content.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that John Mayer was coming out with Sob Rock, I was like, well, no, I kind of started to search around a little bit. Nobody was really, there was obviously things out there, but nobody was really deep diving or doing any kind of predictive sort of, videos. So I just, I forget what the first one was that I did. Might have been something about a controversy where there's only going to be like 4 songs or...
Yeah,
or four.
Actually, before even knowing of you, I knew of you through that video because I myself, as a Mayer head, was looking for videos on the internet where people were talking about the John Mayer leaks, the fact that he's releasing songs on TikTok, and what the new track list is going to be like. And I watched that video of yours, and then I watched your Sob Rock reaction. And I was like, wow, this is great. This man is a fellow Mayer head. And so with that being said, it's great to have you in the pod, man.
Yeah.
You do Mayer Mondays. Today's a Wednesday. We're going to call this a Walt Grace Wednesday.
Love it. Oh, I like that. I like that.
Nice. Nicely
Let's do
done.
it.
We didn't rehearse that at all. That was just like...
I love that. Yeah, so those videos, I just, I put the studios is really mainly focused towards music production, not so much, like streaming or it is a little bit, but it was more for performing rather than just talking. But I put those 2 videos, and one was just like details that had been released, and the next one I think was about the fact that 4 of the songs, would be things that we'd already heard in some way, shape, or form, and then they kind of just they did really well, and I was like, oh, okay. So I just sort of like this ball rolling down a hill where all of a sudden, I'm doing all this John Mayer content as opposed to my own stuff or my own covers or whatever. So
Yeah. You kind of caught a spark there, because then I regularly, until Sob Rock came out, and after that, kept checking up, and I was like, right, so what does Tom think about this? What does Tom think about that?
Oh, thank you.
The last train home ballad version, you did a talk about that as well, and I was like, very, very insightful insights. Again, not to be sounding redundant, but
We had the bell icon turn on.
yeah. And then we just became fans of the way you talk on the internet. And that's, I feel like, the strength of a lot of YouTubers that we follow and that we come back and listen to, is that they know how to talk, and they can explain complicated things to you in a way that doesn't sound very complicated. And I think you do a really good job about that.
Thank you. And that's I really appreciate you saying that, because that's really what I try to do. And I have a whole list of videos that I want to make, and I'm going to make some John Mayer adjacent, some not related to him, but all related to music in some way. And I think that is kind of my goal, is like just take things that seem inaccessible, or things that maybe your casual music fan won't notice, but if you explain it to them in a way that is digestible, they'll be like, oh, that's really cool, I didn't know that was going on, or I didn't know that's how they did this. Or so thank you. I'm glad that's coming across, because that's kind of my goal.
No, I'm glad to hear that, because the last thing that I'd want to see you would be pigeonholed as the John Mayer guy, and that's very easy to do, because obviously the videos do well and people like hearing about it, but then I also want to hear about what you think about All Too Well and Easy on Me and the Adele album. And then I saw the BTS Coldplay thing, and I was like, yes, I want to know what else he has to think about, because I feel like Tom Butwin is turning into a brand as itself, and the more diversity there is, the more people you'll attract, right?
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, the YouTube all algorithms are weird things, and it can be hard, because the Mayer thing was going so well, YouTube algorithm wise, and then it sort of starts to tail off, and you try something else and it gets buried and you get discouraged, but then the algorithm picks it up, and it's this whole like very tumultuous thing of trying to figure out what you're going to do. But I appreciate you saying the brand thing, because I mean, ultimately I love John Mayer. I mean, like as I started to dive into this type of thing, I guess I really sat down and I was like, he is the only artist I listen to where I don't have songs that I skip. I really don't. Like, yeah, and even I've been fortunate to see him many times in concert, and I'm never disappointed when he starts a song. Yeah. Other acts, it's not like that. There are times where I'm like, okay, not this again, or I don't need to hear this, But every time I've seen him, it's been that, and so it's cool. But you're right. There's more to what I'd like to bring to my channel than just the John Mayer guy.
Yeah.
So you're right.
I want to rewind, and I want to ask you about when did your John Mayer fandom begin, and how did it begin? And you've seen him in concert many times. Walk us through how many times. What was your best experience out of all of them? Yeah.
So it started. I want to say, I think I talked about this in maybe the video about my first John Mayer show, but I was lucky to have a friend in high school who was very much in the tape trader kind of scene, bootleg recordings of a lot of those early 2000s singer-songwriters, like Matt Nathanson and Jason Mraz and Gavin DeGraw and John Mayer, of course, and a ton of other names that never really catapulted anywhere, but they were fun to listen to at the time. So I remember the first time I really, really heard John Mayer was some bootlegs, and I don't know if they were recorded at Eddie's Attic. I'm not sure. I don't think it was like that formative, but it was around that time period where he was doing like Comfortable and Victoria and some of the songs that were on Room for Squares. But I remember getting a CD, and this guy was like, "Hey, check this guy out. I think you'd really like him. Like, he's a great guitar player." Everybody at the time, we all loved Dave Matthews Band, so it was kind of like, what's the next sort of like thing we can latch onto that's similar to that Dave Matthews Band type thing. So that's how it started, and then Room for Squares came out, and obviously, it was just explosive, and everybody loved it. And shortly thereafter, I saw him in concert for the first time.
So-
and you asked my favorite experience, the best experience.
Did you see him on this last tour in 2019?
I did, yeah, I did.
I think I think that was like an amalgamation of some of his best.
A greatest hits tour.
A greatest hits
Yeah.
tour without calling it a greatest hits tour. He
Yeah.
opened for himself.
Yeah,
It was quite
perfect,
weird.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like again, you get like three and a half hours of John Mayer and you still feel like, wait, I could have gone another hour with that.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's that the version of the band that he has right now, I absolutely adore. I think they present the songs in the best way that I've seen them presented.
Yep.
So I think I would have to say when I saw him in 2019, it's probably my favorite. His guitar tone is just really come into where it's always been good, but it's just great. And I had 8th row tickets once, and that was really cool.
Wow. That is insane. Because then you see everything happening as it's happening. We were like 40th. We were like in the middle of the floor, and we were still awestruck. We were like, "What is happening? Like, I can't believe that this is actually happening in front of me."
Yeah. That was when I was that close. That was the Heavier Things tour.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was cool. But I have to agree. I think the 2019, and I guess so. I can only imagine the 2022 tour. I mean, like where that's going to go. I'm so excited to see, what the format is and what the band is, and we've got some idea of who's going to be there. But so yeah.
Do you think he's going to go with another opener, or is he just going to open for himself again?
I don't. That's a good question. Because he did prior to the 2019 thing where it was just like an evening with John Mayer, just him the whole night.
Yep.
He did kind of opening for himself again, where he had acoustic, trio, and then the full band. So I feel like you could see an opener come back this time because I feel like he. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I feel that's the kind of the vibe I'm getting. I feel a more like collaborative thing over the last couple years, and I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I wouldn't really be surprised either way, but I feel like an opener might be coming back, but selfishly I would rather just have him play the whole night. So
I'd want to know what songs from Sob Rock would make the cut to the set list. Do you have any like suggestions or ones that you would want to listen that he would play?
yeah, let me and I think were you about to ask who I might think might open?
Yeah, I was going to ask who you think would be a best fit for a John Mayer opener, and then you can answer that as well.
I mean, I feel like a female artist would be cool, but I'm not really
Like an Alicia Cara type, but she's already headlining her own shows.
Yeah, they've done they've done it was like the Bud Light concert thing that I saw, the little dive bar concert.
Yeah, right. That was a good one.
Yeah,
I think I'd want to see. So our local boy here, we're from Pickering, Ontario, and we went to high school with Shawn Mendes, and a show with Mendes and Mayer, like just like Mayer headlining and then Mendes opening.
I got
would
chills.
Be very cool.
I did.
Right?
We got to talk about Wonder too. That album's incredible.
Wonder, I love that album.
Yeah,
It's so good.
It's on my list of videos to make, but
I would love to see that.
That would be that. I think
that would probably be like the best doubleheader that I would pay good money to.
That'd
In
be really
2017, John did bring Sean out, and they did a song in Toronto here. In Your Atmosphere and Mercy.
We were not at that show, and we kicked
missed out.
ourselves.
We missed out. But our friend was, and he said it was a great experience.
I'm sure. I could see. I think this one's going to be very Sob Rock. It's going to carry on that whole brand and that whole world, the Sob Rock universe. So I would say Shawn Mendes is such a force. Like that would have to be its own thing, like Mendes Mayer. But I think that's a huge. They should do that for this tour. I mean, another Canadian, JP Sax. I think.
I love JP Sax.
Big JP fans here.
He would be really cool. I haven't seen him live, and so I'd be super excited if he was on the bill. It's like
I just love that late show or the late show performance that they did on Stephen Colbert. That was just like that gave me chills, proper chills.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I did a video on that. It was
yeah.
That was I've watched that many times. I wish they would put the audio out on Spotify.
Yeah.
I know. I had to like save it on YouTube Music, the app.
Yeah.
You have to
And I
get
listened to
YouTube
it
music
there.
for that.
Yeah, I almost would. Is that good? I would almost do that.
It's worth it.
So I want to talk about a little bit about, again, like we were saying, your origin story, right? So we are fairly new Mare fans. I think 2017, 2018 was where the
Oh.
Mare bug.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're kind of young. Like, how old are you?
23.
He's 23.
Oh
right?
wow. Okay.
And
you are?
I'm 25. So
How old do you think
like,
I am?
Again, okay, so here's the thing. You kind
I
of gave
won't
your
be
age away.
offended.
You kind of gave your age away. You look really young, by the way. So
Oh.
I thought you were like 25, 28.
Wow. I did give
like
my age
my-
away. That's true.
Yeah, but not when you said you were like trading CDs back when Room for Squares came out. I was like,
Totally.
what do you mean? You were trading CDs?
I was
And
3
attending
years
the
old.
Heavier Things tour.
Yeah. So if you want to share your age, I think that'll put a lot of context.
What am I right now? 36. 36.
No,
I would have
Yeah.
said late 20s at best.
Thank you. Thank you.
you are not
It's the
36
lighting.
years old, Tom.
It's the lighting. I don't know what I am right now. It's deliriously tired. But no.
Insane. That is insane. You do not look a day over 25.
I'm aging back. What's the Benjamin Button? I'm going
Yes,
that way.
you
That's
are
right.
Benjamin buttoning before our eyes.
Or it's
because
just
you do not
I'm,
look like 36.
I'm anticipating one day I'm just gonna wake up and just completely fall apart. Just go from 0 to 100 in one day.
So what is then the Tom Butwin origin story? Because I did skim your channel and you have a few million views videos as well. So you have tasted that YouTube Kool-Aid. You've been there, right?
Yes.
So how did you not chase that high of turning into a Boyce Avenue or turning into a Tyler Ward or and then how did you find your own voice and find your own thing on YouTube? And how did
So
it begin? Because I also saw, sorry, this is a very
No,
long-winded
go ahead.
question,
Yeah.
but it's multifaceted because I saw that you're also into Broadway and you have your own Broadway covers and it's just there's a lot going on. So if you could streamline it for us, that would do us a service.
Yeah, I think it would do everybody a service because I think like, I have a lot. You're right. I have a lot of different directions, and it's when I look at my channel, I'm like, I'm okay with it, and I would be okay with it watching somebody else, but I do think it's a little all over the place, and I've debated breaking all three of those kind of worlds you just mentioned into different channels. But as you know, there's different thresholds to hit on YouTube before you can get different features and monetization. So it's always daunting to me to kind of break off in those three different directions, like the vlogging, the Broadway stuff, and then my pop rock, either covers or originals. But as far as an origin, I mean, I've been a musician almost my whole life. I started playing piano when I was 5 years old, taking piano lessons, and that kind of I for as many lessons as I took, I should be a much better piano player than I am. So,
Piano's hard, man.
I really found my voice and kind of like my enjoyment of performing music when I picked up the guitar around 12, 13, and then started playing in bands and singing out of necessity and just because nobody else wanted to do it. And so I was really into it, and that's always performing and recording has always been part of what I do and just part of who I am. And, John Mayer was a huge inspiration to me when I started to do that, both in songwriting and wanting to be, kind of the guitar player who sang also. And, so that and then as far as YouTube goes, in 2008, it was really the first video I did was an experiment, honestly, just to see if I could run Apple GarageBand and the at the time it was called the iSight camera, I think, on the MacBook Pro. I wanted to see if I could run it all at the same time, record the audio, the video, and then put it up on YouTube, and it worked. And I did a cover of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, and I threw it up there in 2008 and then forgot about like what YouTube was basically. And then Michael Jackson died in 2009 and the video exploded and I couldn't log into my account because I forgot the email and the password that I used for it.
That's a horror story beyond horror stories.
Right. So that started the, and it's, I've had like a couple false starts with YouTube, and you mentioned Boyce Avenue and Tyler Ward. And I mean, they're guys and who were really in on the ground floor as far as YouTube covers. And I kind of kick myself sometimes because, not to knock them or not to like, pat myself on the back. But I mean, I feel like at the time, quality wise and interpretation wise, I could enter the conversation the same way, at the same level that they did. Not to say that I'm in the same place now, but but I didn't really pursue it. Part of it was because I couldn't get into my account. So that was that. And then I finally did get back in, and one of the videos you mentioned that has like 1 million or so views is another cover I did of an Eric Clapton song. And,
Yes.
I put that up, kind of forgot about it. Nothing happened with it right away. And my dad actually told me like a couple years later, like, hey, have you looked at that video lately? Like I just went to YouTube and searched you and it's got like 100,000 views. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So
firstly,
when I found
the fact that your dad YouTubed you was so amazing. I love that. My father would never. My father is like, when we post our videos up, like, and episodes come out weekly, my dad's like, so did you hit 1 million yet or not? And I'm like, relax.
Don't call me until you do. But yeah,
Please,
so that inspired me to around 2011 and 12. I bought a nicer camera. I figured out the audio stuff, and I had discovered Boyce Avenue and Tyler Ward at that point, and I was like, okay, I want to try to get into that rhythm and do what these guys are doing. So I was very consistent for probably about 12 weeks or so in putting out covers, and at the time it was a totally different ballgame on YouTube. Like I remember if you could be like one of the first people to cover something when it came out, you could ride that wave, and it was like it was no big deal to get 20,000-30,000 views just like that. Like, and the couple hit 70, 80, and then I would put one out and only got 15 and I'd be disappointed. I mean, now if I break 1,000, I'm like, oh my God, and here we go. Like this is, so I sort of dropped off there and there's been a couple other projects I've done. And so now I feel like I'm back on that wave again of like trying to push the YouTube thing. And I feel like I'm doing it more so vlogging and speaking and rather than cover videos. So I don't know. Yeah. So that's sort of the origin. That's the YouTube centric origin story. So
what about the Broadway centric and singer songwriter centric one? Because I'm also interested in how that works out.
So I mean, my first real release was in 2005 or 6, I want to say, and it was an EP of 3 like full production songs and 2 acoustic songs, all original stuff. And it was cool. It was the first time in a real professional studio, and I got schooled like big time. I went in there, and it was a pretty legit producer who now he's done a bunch of stuff with kind of this production team. Are you familiar with Greta Van Fleet?
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So this is long before them, because they're also very young. But so needless to say, these guys really knew what they're doing, and I'm coming in, 20 years old, 21 years old, and I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. And
you're learning on the job.
Yeah, learning. Real honestly, like I came in with some catchy. I mean, I remember they told me, they're like, "Listen, like you've got some catchy songs, you got some good songs, but you don't know how to play them. You don't know how to record them. Because this is like the first day I sat down to play the acoustics to the click track to just kind of like lay the bed for everything else. And they were just like, yeah, this is not going to work like this. Like you're all over the place.
How do you cope with that? Like, is that demoralizing or is that like a good reality check?
It was at first demoralizing, definitely. And then it was frustrating because I got into an argument with the producer because he was like, I got to play most of the guitar on this if you want it to be to where it needs to be. And I was kind of mad. But then, we sat back and they showed me like, hey, this is where it needs to, things need to be at a certain level if you want. I mean, we can record you, but if you like these songs deserve better than that. So you need to learn. And so after, a tense hour or so, I relented and, let them sort of steer the ship, which was great because I learned so much. There's concepts I learned then that I still apply today in recording, and it is true, so that's really where the singer-songwriter thing started. And I released 2 full-length original albums after that. One under my name and then one under the name Tom Butwin Band.
Yeah.
So
The thing is, I try to go on Spotify and listen to your original stuff, but there's a lot of covers there. I couldn't find a lot of originals. So are they not on Spotify yet, or
they are. So that's interesting you say that. They are there.
okay?
Yeah, if you search for,
Because I just listened to your Bohemian Rhapsody twice.
yeah.
And I was
So,
like, this is pretty good.
And this is you're kind of catching me, and as I tell this story, like I do have a bit of an identity crisis because I do have original stuff on Spotify. That EP I was just talking about is there. I'm looking at my own Spotify right now. And then one of the records from 2013 is there.
Yeah.
But the majority of what's popular and what's on there is, as you mentioned, the Broadway stuff. And I fought it for a long time because I was like, I can play guitar. I'm fine, but I'm not.
You're pretty good. You should give yourself more slack. You're pretty good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm good enough to play on stuff and of my own stuff and back myself up, but I'm by no means a John Mayer or anything. I shouldn't be. I guess there was a period of time where I tried fronting a blues trio of just cover stuff, and I'm like, I run out of ideas very quickly.
I mean, just the fact that you try to attempt that, the ball's on you, sir.
And many would say you shouldn't have attempted that. So, but I was kind of forcing. I think I was trying to carry too much weight with the guitar playing. Even as like being even in just the instrumentation of my original band. Oftentimes, I'd be the only guitar player. We'd be a keyboard player, a sax player. But it's just too much for me to do to sing and then try to cover all these parts on the guitar.
Yeah.
So eventually, I've been a fan of musical theater my whole life. My first 2 live musical experiences were seeing Michael Jackson in 1989, and then seeing Phantom of the Opera for the first time in 1992. So, that was very formative.
That's a great Baptist
in Toronto.
baptism.
By the way.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really? Shout out Toronto. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So, Pantages Theater was what it was called back then. I think it's had a couple different names since then. But so the vocal thing, I decided one day, I was like, listen, I want to really pursue this. I want to pursue it just for me. Like I was like, can I sing these musical theater songs from Les Mis and Phantom that I've just loved my whole life? I don't know. So I started taking voice lessons, and what started as just kind of an experiment that I was hoping would help my pop vocals, my pop rock vocals just be better. But while, it's the equivalent of being a golfer, I guess, and lifting weights. You don't want to be a professional weightlifter. You just want it to help your golf game.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be necessarily a musical theater singer. I just wanted it to help my pop game and, to be a better singer in that realm. But it became so fun, and I enjoyed it, and I felt so at home that I decided I wanted to record a demo with just piano for my voice teacher to be playing piano and me singing. And that turned into an entire record with strings and all sorts of stuff. And that's called A Different Stage. And that's all of my top Spotify songs are from that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that just spawned okay, well, now I want to do a show. So I started, learning. I knew auditions were coming up in it was a year out for a production of Jesus Christ Superstar. And so I started to, train and stuff towards that. I ended up getting the title role Jesus, and doing that. And so it's like this.
That's amazing, man.
I kind of I didn't plan it. But now that I'm looking back on it, it's 6 years in the making of now I've become more successful and more known for what I've done with musical theater.
Yeah.
Recording wise, internet presence wise. Most of the gigging and jobs that I do, are related to that world, and people are hiring me for my vocals or to sing on musical theater related recordings. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place because it's I'm working on pop music, that I want to release, but it's like, do I put it out? You've exposed the problem. Like, well, I couldn't really find any of your originals.
But here's the thing, right?
amongst,
So here's the thing.
know.
As a consumer, as a fan of yours, this is what I would say. So if I were to go on your Spotify, right, and if I were to find, let's say, a 2021 release by Tom Butwin, and it's a pop record, I'd be very happily surprised. I'd probably save it and I'd probably have it on my playlist on rotation. Just because I went on your Spotify and I couldn't find it, and I found a lot of these Broadway covers, which were great. But again, I was like, okay, so what does he have to say though? Where is his stuff? And it took me, I think, I was on your Spotify for like a good 10, 15 minutes before I was like, I don't know. I'll ask him directly where it is and when it's coming, if it's coming at all, if there's any new material that you
I would
have
even
out.
suggest it's never too late to rebrand if you want to use just your name and release those records.
Yeah.
Maybe even use your YouTube growth. Like you're on a good wave. Maybe like plug it in there as well. I would love to go back and listen to it wherever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, ultimately it's tough because I've built, not a huge name by any means, but most of what I've done is under my name, and it's difficult to start over, with that. So I think you're right, and I do think riding the YouTube wave is true. Like, I mean, I think it's easier in some ways to go from talking about John Mayer to like, hey, here's some songs that I've written. If you liked Sob Rock, if you like, John Mayer stuff, you probably like this too.
Yeah.
Rather than like, hey, here's me singing Phantom of the Opera. Check out this cool 80s inspired pop. Like, but I mean, there's 80s inspired pop in Phantom of the Opera. So what can I say? I mean, like, if you try hard enough, you can connect anything, I guess. But I mean, for me, I guess this is what I always struggle with. And I've struggled with this even on records that I've put out, which I hope you'll find on Spotify.
I will check it out again. I will check it out. Again.
But
if anything, you can DM me the records and
I
I'll
will.
check it out.
But I mean, there's some varying styles on those records. So I've always kind of had this problem of like, well, there's kind of a country-ish tune, but then after that, there's like this super acoustic pop, and then after that, there's a rock song. Like, what are you doing? So I've always had this kind of scattered thing. But for me, I've justified it looking at artists like Sting, where his records are kind of like that. And I mean, he's Sting. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really apply to me, but that's I've not been turned off by, I mean, even like your podcast, right? I mean, you guys talk about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It's not just music. I mean, there's cricket, there's
movies,
there's movies.
Yeah,
I mean,
shows
there's like
and
all
everything,
sorts of stuff.
Which is why we can relate to you saying that the YouTube algorithm aspect of it, like, what is YouTube going to push for us? Is it the cricket podcast videos for the cricket listeners? Is it going to be the music podcast for the music listeners? So, but we're trying for it, seeing what's working, what's not working.
Sure.
And we're hoping to find that niche or that audience that's hopefully out there for it.
That weird Venn diagram of cricket, music, movie fans.
Yeah. See, and to me, like, I understand like that there's probably some very smart person out there who would tell me why it's not a good idea, but like I am interested. Okay, so these guys are talking about John Mayer, but I'm like, I don't really know much about cricket. Like I know a little bit, but I would be interested in hearing you talk about it, and I wouldn't be turned off by it. Like I don't. It doesn't mean that it's going to be like my favorite content from you. Maybe I'm somebody who wants the movie stuff or whatever. But I mean, to me, like I'm okay with it. Like I don't need to just be fed one thing from somebody. Like, so and the same John Mayer too. I mean, look at what, I'm interested in everything he does. He's putting out laundry detergent, and I'm like, analyzing my own laundry habits because of him, and I'm interested.
That's true. That's very true. For us, the long-term game is to have all these different wings of our podcast turn into their own podcast. So let's say 2 years from now, if we become big enough where we're like, let's say 10,000 subscribers and people like actively want to listen to something that we have to say, then we'd have our own podcast wing for cricket. And then those fans could go over there. And then the music fans that want to listen to us talk about music can come here. And the interview fans, it'll spread out eventually on its own. At least we hope. And and what I've learned studying YouTube, like actually avidly studying YouTube, is that the algorithm is relentless. But what I've noticed is that if you have the discipline of putting out those 2 videos a week for a year and a half, you will see results. And and every now and then we get like someone big on, like we had Ali Abdal. I don't know if you're familiar with Ali Abdal. He makes like productivity YouTube content. Also a big John Mayer fan. We had him on, and he has like 3 million subscribers. And his subscribers came over.
I wasn't familiar, but I saw when I was kind of scrolling through your stuff. I did see him. So
yeah, and he's like, because of him, we got like 30,000 views on that podcast, and people came in
amazing.
and then his fans were also John Mayer fans, and they were Coldplay fans, and then yada yada yada. Right? That's how it's steamrolls. But what I would say is that you keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is really good. There have been times when I've been driving and I would just put your stuff on, and I like listening to you talk.
It's high quality. Like you have a great voice and you have a great mic as well. So both of those go hand in hand with almost giving it as a podcast vibe itself.
No, the SM7B is like our goal. Like
I told myself I would never own one of these because I was
like, it's so good.
Because I was gonna do a video. I was gonna do a video on this. I have a list, and it's another one on the list. And like because this microphone is just I saw so many people using it who, and it's all podcasters. But I'm like, you don't need that. Like you don't need that microphone. In fact, you're probably not using it the right way.
Yeah.
Without getting too geeky, it's a very low output microphone. You probably don't have the right things. You know,
yeah, you need like a cloud filter and everything.
Exactly. See, that's
I've done my research. The whole budget for affording one of those is like our entire setup, right?
Right. So so this thing right here is an audio interface. It's a universal audio interface. And when I got this, I had sold a previous one that was kind of the centerpiece of my studio and got this. This actually came free with it.
No,
which was insane. Like
that's bonkers.
So I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Like, and I actually looked at it and it sat in the box for a long time. But so if you're an aspiring podcaster out there listening, you don't need this microphone.
Yeah,
an SM58.
Yeah,
what do you have there?
We have these. Okay, so we have a Behringer
perfect
audio interface, and it came with the audio interface. Like you
sound great,
and we have 3 of them, so we can have guests over. And just stick one up. Yeah,
and to me, it's like, it's this. What's what you're putting into it, like whether you're singing or speaking, or you can't see it behind the keyboard here, but there's a hat hanging on a guitar.
I see that,
and it's like literally it's a $70 Squier Stratocaster, and
that is not your hat hanger.
It's not my hat hanger, but I used it because I didn't have my Fender Strat was broken. I didn't have a Silver Sky yet, so I was like, and I just grabbed that guitar. It's horrible, but it's horrible to play. But I plugged it in, and I like there's stuff that I was demoing, and I'm gonna keep it. Like played with that guitar. I'm not gonna re-record it because it was fine. Like the vibe was there. What I played is gonna be very difficult to recreate, and so that being said, it's just I think it's about it does help to have good quality. Audio and visual stuff.
But you know what's insane? Sorry, I'm gonna finish this thought. I was listening, so I got really big into like Bruce Springsteen, and a lot of his he literally just has a Takamine guitar. That's it. He's never been like, you know what? I'm gonna move to like a Taylor or like a Martin. He has that same Takamine guitar with the jacket strings, and I'm like, you're Bruce Springsteen. Your guitar sounds like I hate it so much, but at the same time, I'm like. I would feel weird now if he played anything else.
100%. Yeah.
And it kind of became a sound. It totally became a sound.
And I think you have to be careful, like because you can get really into, I'm not going to make any videos yet. I'm not going to put because I got to wait until I get this mic and I got to wait until I get this camera. It's the lighting's not right. I'm not going to put it out. It's like, all that will come. And all of a sudden now we're like it's like a YouTube self-help video, but it's about the connection that you make. You guys 100%. Have obviously connected with people, and by the way, Behringer makes great stuff. I mean, I seriously I know they're considered to be like low end or whatever, but I mean like I have friends who are in touring bands and they run their entire show off of a Behringer mixing console that they travel around with. And
Behringer sponsor us. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, sponsor them.
I was going to bounce off that thought. And a lot of people before starting off YouTube or even podcasting, they're too concerned about the equipment that they have. If they have a 4K camera, a DSLR, high quality mics or not. And that is a barrier that keeps them from starting. And I think starting itself it's a big step.
Yeah.
And like when you look back on our first or second episodes that we did, we literally went to our public library and recorded those episodes. We had no video, just audios, but over time you can see that growth, and that's also terrific to see. Yeah,
I think it is. But to me, like to bring it back to the John Mayer thing too. Like I still have those CDs that I was mentioning before that are bootlegs, and you listen to those performances in 2002, 2003. I think the earliest one I have is from a show that is right down the road here, but I wasn't at that show, unfortunately. It's like a 2001 or 2 type thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's good, it's cool. It's not great. I mean, like his voice is not, all the way there. The guitar tone is very like I just bought, it's just my Fender Strat plugged into this like amp that I rented, like kind of thing. It's not great, but to hear, like you said, to hear and see that progression to me is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Like I want to hear, Shawn Mendes when he's, 17 years old doing a YouTube cover in his bedroom, because I want to hear the seed of what created, this guy who has this incredible voice and writes great songs, has become this worldwide phenomenon. Like I'm interested in that. So the same thing goes for a show like yours, where it's like, that's cool to me. Like go back to episode 1 and see, oh, that's where they started. And that's how the gear they started with. So to me, it's all related to like, I just hope that it seems like there's a lot of people, there are people out there, you just got to find them, like, who are okay with you being kind of in 3 different worlds and then watching you grow. Like, that's the listener or watcher you want.
Yeah, and we are very cognizant of the fact that we're hitting 3 very different topics, and we do have subscribers that return for all 3 of them. Some return for 1 of them. Some return for 2/3 of them, and that's okay. That's fine. We're trying to grow that fan base, and it's like 1 subscriber at a time, right?
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that you have a list of videos that you want to make. I think if you could add 1 recommendation from our end, because you make John Mayer videos, we've recently seen Taylor Swift re-record a lot of her music.
Yeah.
The album Red dropped, and we saw Jake Gyllenhaal get a lot of smack for the All Too Well song, and we can anticipate that Speak Now is coming next, and that's gonna infiltrate in John Mayer's world. We even recently saw an incident on Instagram where a fan reached out to John with a lot of hate, and he responded, and we saw that story play out. So I would love to get your take on that, and the Swifties that are out there that are quite aggressive and passionate when it comes to her music.
They are, and I've never quite understood, because aggressive and passionate, like there's, for example, I did when I did a couple of videos related to BTS and K-pop, and that army, for BTS, I mean, like very aptly named, they are very, they're very intense fans, and for the most part, it was very positive, and they were so excited that somebody from outside of their world was like entering their world. They were like genuinely excited, like, you should check this out. Look at this performance. You're gonna love this. Like, here's our guys, like, before they were famous, like, just hitting the pavement, like, and this is what we, it's like they were so loyal. But so I don't quite understand the Swiftie thing, because it seems, and I could be wrong, but it just, because I've always looked at it from the John Mayer, team, hashtag team John Mayer, I don't understand why it seems to go down the negative road so much. I get, like, they dated, whatever, there's breakups, there's all that stuff, which I don't really get too far into, but I don't understand that approach,
Sorry, go ahead. Finish that thought.
No, I don't really blame Taylor Swift. I at least to my knowledge, I don't know that she's like encouraging that. Maybe she is. I don't know.
Okay, so
I haven't really paid attention. But
I'm glad that you said that, because what I was going to say was there's a really good New York Times podcast. The New York Times music critics have a podcast. I think it's called Popcast, and they go deep into the All Too Well 10-minute version. And one of the critics, who's also a female, did not like the song. and did not like her attitude about the song. And what she was basically saying was, and I'm paraphrasing, is that she has a tendency of weaponizing her lyrics. So there's a bad breakup song and then there's a sad breakup song. But then with her and with the SNL performance, and then she came on Seth Meyers, and Seth Meyers was openly like, the person you wrote this about is going to hear it. What do you think they're going to think about? And she was like, I don't really think about them at all. So she sort of perpetuates this, I don't know, this narrative, and then the Swifties take it and they just take it to the next step, as all fans that are, as big and as passionate as Swifties are would do, and then just go the extra step. They start trending Jake Gyllenhaal, and then Speak Now is it's a whole thing. So I think partially Taylor Swift might be to blame, but that's why I wanted to have your take on it, because you're also a singer-songwriter, and I'm a writer as well. I write poetry and short stories, and so I know that we draw from our experiences. Like, that's the only way to write. Write what you know, right? That's the first cardinal rule. But when you look at something like that, at the Taylor Swift saga, and you look at in her entire discography, do you sympathize? Do you empathize? Or are you like, no, there's a line and then it's being crossed and then the fans are just taking it a step forward? Because let's be honest, the Gyllenhaal stuff happened 9-10 years ago, man. Like 2011, 12.
I mean, you don't see Mirror fans going after Jennifer Aniston after listening to Split Screen Sadness.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And I don't know. And so I mean, I depending on who sees this, I could have another group of fans coming after me.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Like when I correctly mentioned that auto-tune was being used on a Blackpink performance, and everyone lost their mind, and I thought I would have to cancel my YouTube channel. But
I mean, there's no doubt in that.
Cancel culture is on the rise.
Yes. So there's another video planned for what auto-tune actually is and what it can and can't do. But so what I'm going to say is I have a hard time with Taylor Swift because I don't like her music.
Oh, really?
So
that's very interesting.
I don't. And so when people tell me about how great of a songwriter she is, I just don't connect with it. I don't think the melodies are that great. For me, I tend to enter a song from like the groove and the melody first and then the lyrics. So I understand that, like, her thing has always been the lyrics and the story behind them and everything. So I'm not going to say that she's not a good songwriter. It's just that they don't connect with me. So when I hear a song like Paper Doll, which I think is potentially supposedly about Taylor Swift, I listen to that, I hear the guitar part, and I'm like, I hear this, the phrase turns. It's just like, I'm like, this is phenomenal. This is, I can see how cool that you took whatever experience you have with Taylor Swift, because I don't even know what that is, and quite frankly, I don't even care.
Yeah.
John Mayer. And this is what you came up with. And now I'm really interested in the chords and the guitar part, and I am interested in lyrics, but I don't know. I have a hard time with it because I don't really like her music, and it's not because of like the John Mayer hate. I just never connected with it. Like I just haven't, so I feel if that's, and I've kind of shied away, so I don't really know. And now that you've told me that she kind of does have this, maybe not that she's like asking her fans to do those types of things, but that she's definitely not saying, hey guys, listen, I mean, I had this experience. It's about the song's definitely about him, but leave the guy alone. Like, come on, she's not doing that, and it certainly doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt her sales and trends to have such a rabid fan base. So
it's so funny that you say that about the groove and everything, but because have you heard Dear John ever in your life?
The song?
The song. Doesn't it sound like Gravity?
It's a rip off of Gravity.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm like, is anybody gonna talk about how Dear John literally has the same time signature and goes from the 1 to the 4 and everything, right?
Yep.
And then it even has that acoustic guitar lick in the beginning. And I'm like,
it's almost as if she's mocking him.
Yeah, sure. And if it, I mean, okay, that's kind of clever in and of itself. Like, I'll give you credit there. Like, I guess, I don't know. I just like, it just doesn't, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't get it.
I thought it would be interesting to see your take, because it's just because from songwriter to songwriter, I feel like you would have had a better understanding, but it's fine. It's okay. You don't have to get
I
into
feel like
that.
you would have been better at that, but that was very disappointing.
No. I was just like, it explains a lot. That when you said that you're not a Taylor Swift fan, I already got the message. I was like, that's fine. And we don't need to push it. You don't need to push it.
No, but I think I should. I've tried because I'm like, I should listen to this stuff just to be informed. And I don't know. It just hasn't latched for some reason. So I will try again.
It's
For
fine.
you, I will try again.
It's totally fine.
Are you guys fans of her music? I mean,
He's a big fan. To me, a lot of her music sounds the same. It sounds repetitive. Like, I get the fact that she's a really great singer-songwriter, and a lot of her songs are terrifically written. But I had, just like you said, I haven't been able to connect with her music on that same level as I have, let's say, compared to Coldplay or even John Mayer. So I'm not that huge of a fan.
I like her. I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
Just because in one of my videos in my own channel, I called her the female Springsteen.
Okay.
And it's because I like the way that she weaves, even if it's blatantly like in tabloids and whatnot, but I like the way that she weaves narratives, and she has first characters and second characters and all that. Very Springsteen-y. Springsteen talks about like blue collar neighborhoods, and she talks about her love life. But if you go,
I'm very ill informed. I didn't even know that it went that deep.
It
I've
goes
been
deep.
so resistant.
You
to her.
should try
you
the
know.
Folklore Evermore albums. Those twin albums. There's a lot of the National produced them, and
there you go.
there's a lot of Bon Iver in it. And
Right.
it's, I would say, if there's ever been a Taylor Swift naysayer, and I've presented them that album, they've come out, if not 100%, then at least 50% more appreciative of her art.
I will do that. I will do that because I don't think I've given it. I definitely haven't given her music a fair shake. And you know what? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's probably because of the John Mayer.
Yeah.
It's probably the John Mayer tablet.
There's an
thing. You know what?
underlying
No. There
that's
is.
going-
I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm
in
Team
the
John
worst
now.
position because I love Jake Gyllenhaal's movies. I love John Mayer's movies.
Right,
Sorry,
right.
music. And then I also like Taylor Swift a lot. So
Ultimate
it was.
podcast guest, all three of them on your show.
Oh my god, that's the best. That would be insane. Speaking of that, though, one of our goals, and we've been very vocal about this, is to have John Mayer on our podcast. What do you think are the odds that he'd ever come on a show like this or a show like yours, where we're like what 1,000, 1,200 subscribers, very low, but we're passionate, and I feel like the questions that we would have, you included, and us, to ask him would be very different from someone like what shows does he even go on anymore? Like, he doesn't do podcasts, but I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, like a Sirius XM radio,
Yeah, but
promotional thing or something. Yeah,
that's so corporate. It smells
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
corporate, like everything, capitalism and consumerism and all that. But
Yeah.
like smaller shows where we're true fans, and we would ask him the real meanings behind real things.
I would love for him to be on. However, I've seen the trend where he only usually appears on podcasts where he knows the host personally on a personal basis. But it's a great ambition to have, and I would say the top tier goal.
Do you think it'll ever happen? Is what I'm trying to ask.
I don't see. Here's the thing. I actually don't think it's that far fetched. I think.
Okay.
When you look at so Christian James Hand, the guy who does the session live on Instagram, right? So he, and a lot of John Mayer fans, me included, discovered him when he broke down Last Train Home, and clearly John Mayer was a fan of what he was doing, prior to, because he said that it kind of informed the way he recorded it, because he's like, well, if this guy breaks it down and hears the different stems, like he's going to hear this, and this, and I'd like to put those things in there. And Christian obviously has been in the LA music scene forever, and he's been in radio, and he's been at different things, but from what I can gather, they didn't have like a personal relationship. I mean, they probably knew people in the same. I would like to think that what that guy did on Instagram kind of started organically was just interesting to John Mayer, and he was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go on there. The laundress laundry detergent thing, they were established before John Mayer came. I mean, John Mayer didn't create that company. They were a company, independent company before. So I think I mean, and I think you're right. To me, like, who would I rather see interview John Mayer? You guys, or somebody on Access Hollywood? You guys, of course.
How
Like,
many
they're,
times is
you know,
Andy Cohen gonna interview John Mayer? Like, come on.
Right.
And I was gonna
Well, there
say,
you go.
like,
They're good
off your
friends,
point,
though. They're good friends.
that
so,
girl on
I mean, that's
YouTube,
Mary Spender. Mary Spender, yeah.
Yeah, she had a connection
Oh
with
yeah,
him.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah.
That was
So,
actually a very
has she-
nice moment. Like that her video, and then John Mayer comes up and gives her a guitar, and then that was a
Yeah.
very nice moment. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
very.
So
It made my heart big.
Yeah. I mean, likely, I don't know.
Yeah.
Possible, definitely. I think so. I mean, why not? I mean, we connected.
Yeah.
In what world 50 years ago would we have ever been able to connect? You know what I mean?
100%,
So it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I totally agree.
mean, and
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
yeah, and he seems like I've never met him, but he seems like if you're interesting to him, that he would give you the time of day,
Yeah.
no matter who
So,
you are. You know,
we're sort of like manifesting it. We're putting it out there,
Yeah.
and we're gonna hope that it
I
happens.
love it. I think. It's
So,
great.
what other music are you into right now? What are you listening to? We know it's not Taylor
How was your
Swift.
Spotify Wrapped? Where were you top?
Yeah, what
5
was your
artists?
Spotify Wrapped?
And I guess we can leave him on
Oh
that note.
man, yeah. So Spotify, I won't pull it up and waste time trying to find it, but tons of Sob Rock. I think
Yeah.
Last Train Home was like the most played song.
Most plays.
Yeah.
Which I actually, that song, I liked it when I first heard it, but I didn't expect to return to it as many times as I have.
Same.
And I still haven't gotten sick of it.
Same.
I thought I would have, but I haven't.
What's the superior version? The ballad version or
Ooh.
or the single version?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's the ballad version,
Yeah. I agree with you.
You know what
It
they
is.
say? It shouldn't matter, but it does.
but it does. I gotta love that song.
That
too.
was my most played song, by the way.
Clearly,
Yeah,
he
I
was
don't
going
blame
through
you.
something.
I don't blame you. Oh man, that is such a good song. Oh,
Yeah.
such a good song. What else am I listening to? So I have some friends. I can call them friends, I think, because I've done a few things with them. They're a band called Yam House.
Okay.
YAMHAUS, and they're from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they describe themselves as a pop band from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they just finished up a tour with a band called Blue October.
Oh yeah,
who-
they're touring with the Goo Goo Dolls next summer.
Oh, they're okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So they were the opening act, but so there's some friends of mine. They were Spotify Rap. They were like the next like 4 or 5 spots. They put out a ton of really good music this year.
That's great.
A ton of really good music, and
And you recommend it, so we'll check it out.
I would strongly recommend it. Anything in their that they have out there is, I think, really good. Particularly the singles, if you look, that were released in 2020 and 2021. They really started to hit some strides. I'm trying to think. Prior to that, JP Sax was a discovery, and I wasn't really aware of him before the John Mayer connection.
Same
So
here.
that was cool because I felt like that was a fun discovery.
Have you heard of Phineas yet?
Go ahead. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
He's really good too.
So, yeah, he is. And I haven't dug into his catalog a ton, but what I have done is I've these anytime he puts a video or someone puts a video of him explaining his production techniques, and how he create. Yeah, it's unreal.
insane.
And it really goes back to, you don't need the most expensive gear. That's really he's using stock Logic sounds. They're in a bedroom. They don't have the world's greatest microphones. They don't have like room treatments and people measuring things. They have to make sure a microphone's in the right place. It's just like, and they're making the biggest records in the world. And it's like, okay, so take that excuse off the table. Like, so I mean, I know he's sort of like started to do more things under his own name and trying to make.
He's really good. Here's an interesting story. So we saw him a couple of weeks ago. He was our first show back, and we saw him in Toronto. And we were standing in line. It was pouring rain, right? And there's this kid in front of us, and one of them just turns around, and we start talking to him, and he goes like, "By any chance, are you guys John Mayer fans?" And we're like, "How did you know?" And then we literally geeked out for an hour waiting in the line. with him. We became friends. We started following each other, and like we're now buds.
Awesome.
We're like going to the show in February
So
together.
he didn't did he recognize you from your show, or just he just kind of like went for it? It was like, I
He
think
just
you guys are
randomly, like I don't know if it's like
Okay.
if people can
We
tell.
give off that vibe. I don't know, but he said that he actually discovered Phineas because he was on John Mayer's Instagram show.
Oh yeah.
Because he was on that.
Yeah. And it was just the weirdest thing. And like now we're like friends and stuff. And like we talked the whole way, and we're going to see the John Mayer show together in February. And it's like
that's
it's
incredible.
wild. At a Phineas show, we meet like, and he's a great guitarist himself. Like he's studying music at UFT and everything. And he's like he looks up to John Mayer. And I was like, yeah, bro,
Yeah.
we've been there.
I love that's what has been the most fun thing about like getting into YouTube in the way that I've gotten into it in the last 6-7 months is,
Yeah.
you know, there's a core group of people who have really latched on to the Mayor Mondays thing. And it's like I feel like I feel like I know them, and now I've met you guys, and we're connecting, and it's just like it's such a cool thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it and so happy, and it's like if that's all it ever becomes, like
Yeah.
that's cool because it's fine. Like you know, it's really rewarding and very interesting and fun. And
What else is
So-
next for you? So what can we expect from you in the next coming months? You said you have a long list of videos that you want to make, but apart from that,
definitely. So you know, I've really been debating for anybody watching this who's watched the Mayor Mondays thing. Like, I unfortunately missed this week because we were also supposed to record this Sunday night because I was doing a Christmas special video shoot where I'm playing guitar and singing
no,
backup for
it's
somebody.
it's totally fine. If you have a gig and you have to cancel on it, that's a perfectly fine reason.
We understand.
That's fine.
But yeah, so I've you know, as far as YouTube goes, I do have that list of videos, and a lot of them are not John Mayer related, but they're things that I think people who have enjoyed my content so far would still enjoy and be interested in. And I'm really debating on the Mayor Mondays thing of maybe pausing for a bit until
Okay.
the tour starts in February, because I find myself sometimes stretching, you know, and grasping, like, I got to come up with something, and I feel like sometimes quality isn't there, and I feel rushed, and it's like I don't want to just put something out for the sake of putting something out.
Totally agreed.
You know, so that's kind of where I am right now. I need to tell the Mayor Mondays people that. So.
No, but
Can't just
that's a
disappear.
good point, because I mean it's a good thing that there's not a lot of Mayer stuff to talk about, which means that he's staying away from the tabloids and he's
Right.
clear and it's all about the music, and I can appreciate that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think once the tour starts up,
Yeah.
the Mayor Mondays thing is going to be much more interesting. At least much more interesting for me to do.
Yeah.
Because we could talk about set lists and if there's any guests or you know things that have happened at shows and stuff. So, so that's where that's going to go. And then, you know, it's in 2021 I put out a live album, and it's from a show that I do called Brushes with Broadway, and it's really meant for like performing arts centers and that kind of thing. Of course, COVID and everything stalled that out.
Yeah.
But so in the background, I'll be doing that type of thing. And that, you know, that record came out earlier this year. It's out there. But I mean, like personally, creatively, musically, I'm working on original music that's very different than the kind of Jason Mrazzi type acoustic stuff that I've done before.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that, and I'm hoping, and my plan is to have multiple releases in 2022.
Yes.
So
That's what we need.
So yeah, so I'm excited to get back to that. You know, not that I'm done with the theater thing. The theater thing is going to live on in kind of a separate world, but that took up so much of my focus, and you know, a lot of effort and training and everything towards that. And it's not that I've, you know, achieved the pinnacle of that or anything like that, but I think it's, you know, I've gotten it to a point where it can now coexist, and I can, you know, dedicate some time to being inspired to write again. Cause for a long time I wasn't, because I was just so focused on developing vocally and acting and that type of thing. So yeah, more YouTube content, and then kind of dovetailed with that some of the new tunes I'm working on. And then I hope showing people how I wrote them and how I came up with them and kind of like, you know, building the song up and showing, you know, some of that type of stuff too.
That'll be amazing.
So,
I mean,
we would love to see that.
We are going to be looking forward to it 100%. And we hope that you would come back soon as well. And we can go deeper into more Tom Butwin lore, John Mayer lore, whatever, right? whatever is happening. And we appreciate the time that you gave us today. And I hope it was worth it. I hope you had a good time.
Oh my God, absolutely. I will come back and talk to you guys anytime you want about anything. If you want to teach me about cricket, I would love that. Because
that would be great. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
how long do you have, you know?
As long as you need. It's really sure. It's an honor, and honestly, it's really a pleasure. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and I will absolutely be shouting you out and linking everything I possibly can to your show and anything that you want me to from my YouTube channel.
Oh, so, thanks, man.
Likewise, same here, Tom. We'll look everything that you want in the description, and that's where you can find Tom Butwin.
Yeah, you can check all of the stuff out that we've talked about. His handles, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of that will be in the description. If you guys liked the episode, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment. If you came here from Reddit, if you came here from anywhere else, let us know as well. And we'll see you on the other side, guys. Cheers.